El entorno, como bien sabemos, está en permanente cambio y los clientes son cada vez más exigentes porque están cada vez más informados. Nos encontramos en la búsqueda constante de mejorar nuestras dinámicas con un enfoque simple para obtener resultados sobresalientes. Tu iniciativa seguro involucra de alguna manera cambiar el mundo, así que a partir de conceptos como el corazón de la agilidad, vamos a ver cómo podemos desarrollar nuestras competencias para el cambio necesario. Hacia una cultura ágil, es allí hacia donde apuntamos. Debemos enfocar la energía y las acciones en lo que es realmente importante para ser más efectivos y obtener mejores resultados para la sociedad, para nuestros clientes, para nuestros equipos y para las personas. Para eso les voy a presentar al señor Alistair Cockburn, uno de los autores del manifiesto ágil, reconocido como el principal experto mundial en estrategias de desarrollo y gestión de proyectos y técnicas de colaboración en equipos, entre muchas otras disciplinas. Y les voy a presentar también al señor Carlos Palacio, Enterprise Agile Coach en Pragma. Les doy la bienvenida entonces a Alistair y a Carlos. Es un placer tenerlos aquí. Muchas gracias. Y vamos entonces con ustedes a este sexto panel. Vamos a comenzar el cambio hacia una cultura ágil en las organizaciones.
Por esa introducción. I want to start thanking you, Alistair, for joining us today. We are very happy to have you with us today. And thanks to all our participants for being with us. So we're going to have a conversation around those topics that guide us through that cultural shift around agile and all that we have been facing and that we were talking about since the event began. So Alistair, this year we are celebrating 20 years of the Agile Manifesto. We all know that you are one of the authors of the manifesto. And how was that initiative born and developed? Why don't you tell us a little bit of that story to begin this chat?
Okay, what a big question, Carlos. You know, I can speak one whole hour on this. But first, if I might, say hello to all my friends in Latin America.
Of course.
Hola, amigos. De hecho, hablo castellano de Buenos Aires, porteño. I understand that we have simultaneous translators. So maybe sometime I could give some answer or respond to a question in Spanish. It's fine. But we'll stay in English for my speaking. This way I can be exactly sure of what I say.
Great.
Very good. So with that, yeah. You know, people think that everything happened in the meeting room. And it's obvious to ask what happened in the meeting room. And the meeting room was very interesting. But I've been talking a lot this year about the meeting, and it became clear after a certain amount of reflection that what preceded that meeting for the previous 5 or 6 years was as important, was necessary in order to construct that meeting. And people don't know about the preceding 5 or 6 years. So I will give not too long of an answer because we have other questions. But a little bit about this. So I was hired by IBM in 1991 to create a methodology for Smalltalk and C++ projects. So object technology at that time only had 2 groups, Smalltalk people and C++ people. I didn't know anything about methodology at all. So my boss said, why don't you go and interview some projects and see what works? We don't have a product in the space. There's no competition. Just tell us what works. And this began a series of interviews that ended up in me getting a PhD. Finally, I have a doctorate, literally, in methodologies, agile methodologies, based on interviews that went over like 10 years. And the thing that was surprising was the projects that I found that were working were not doing anything that was written in the books. The ones that were following processes were failing. The ones that were succeeding weren't following any process that we could discover. So this was 1991, 92, 93. Then I was on a big project in 94, 95, a fixed price project, fixed price, fixed scope, fixed everything like normal, iron triangle. Yes, Agile works with the iron triangle. I grew up with that stuff. And we tried everything that I had learned, okay, and it worked. The other projects around kind of failed. That eventually became one of my methodologies, which I called Crystal. And called it Crystal because there are many members of the Crystal family: crystal clear, crystal yellow, crystal orange, crystal red. Because different types of projects need different types of rules. But anyway, while I was doing this, the Scrum guys were inventing Scrum, same time period. The XP guys were inventing XP, same time period. In England and Holland, they were inventing DSDM. In Australia, they were inventing FDD. And there were some other ones. So you can see that there was a mood at the time to do some lightweight, incremental, iterative, communication-intensive methodology. So that's one part. That's the part that people know about that led up to the meeting, because in 2000, Bob Martin said, I think we should have a meeting of these lightweight methodology people, and I want to write a manifesto. So the idea of a manifesto came absolutely from Bob Martin. But once we got in the room, nobody knows who said what, because it was just a really rich discussion. But the other two threads I have to mention, you've heard of patterns for software design, right? That group of people met twice a year in Europe and the US and established a style of interacting and speaking, diagnosing, correcting that we used inside the meeting. Also, the meeting was the fourth one in a sequence, which started in 1994, we called Workshop on Object-Oriented Design, which was held at Snowbird in February, where people like Ivar Jakobsen, Kenny Rubin, Adele Goldberg, Ron Jeffries, Ward Cunningham, Martin Fowler, Kent Beck, me, would get together for 2 days and just have a loose discussion. Since I was living in Salt Lake City, I organized the meeting at Snowbird, utilizing exactly the same pattern for the meeting like for the Wood conferences. But with a theme, instead of just a loose conversation, a theme, which is there something in common? Do we write a manifesto? Okay, so that's the basis for the meeting. And then once we got in the meeting, it was the most beautiful meeting any of us have ever been in. And I thought about this literally for like 10 years. Why did this meeting go so well? And I think the answer for me was the quality of listening, the generosity in listening between the people. There was no fighting. There were no egos. We even had like enemies in there, people who hated each other's methodologies. They didn't hate each other. They hated the methodologies. But everybody was very generous. And it's for this reason that now, and I will show you, I have this lovely coffee mug, the coffee mug, you know, Heart of Agile coffee mug, if I could get it in the camera somewhere. Hold the camera still there. I think the camera guy's there. Well, I'm holding it still. The camera guy's moving things. But on the back side of the camera, of the coffee mug, the top phrase that we use, I'm going to bring it a little bit closer. Let's see if we can do something, Mr. Camera Guy, to find it. It says, increase the quality of listening. Yeah? And that sentence is straight off of the manifesto meeting. So I said, okay, the thing that made the difference between that meeting and every other meeting was the quality of the listening, the generosity in understanding each other. Yeah, so we had 17 people, all men, famous men. So there could be a lot of ego fighting, but there wasn't. And this was the magic, was why was there no fighting? Yeah, so we said, okay, we agree. Maybe a manifesto is a good idea. We need a name. What is this thing? What do we stand for? So we spent an hour searching for a word, and there were brainstorms and dot votes and discussions. And the top two words that came out in a tie were the words agile and adaptive. And as far as I'm concerned, you need them both. Agile is about changing rapidly inside of a project, and adaptive for me means culturally changing with time to learn more about becoming a better organization. So we have agile and adaptive. So we said, okay, we have a word. Agile is the word. It was the winning word. What does that mean? Now, what does that mean? So then, then it was time to go skiing. So some of us went skiing and some didn't. And everybody talked to each other loosely. Very, very good informal talking. And then when we came back, somebody had put on the board this structure of something over something. And we all recognized that was a good structure. And we started then working with it. Well, how many items do we have? 3, 4, 5. What are they? And we debated, and it took really some time. But by the end of the afternoon, we had the 4 values, and we agreed at them with 100% agreement. Like literally, somebody would say, "Hey, the first sentence. How do you guys feel about the first sentence?" And some people were like this, and some were like this. So if somebody was like this, then somebody would say, "So what's bothering you?" And the person would say, "This is bothering me." And say, well, instead of trying to convince them that they shouldn't be bothered, they said, well, can we fix it? And so we fixed it, every single thing, until we got to the end, and we had 17 people sitting around the whiteboard, and everybody did this to the whole thing. 17 people, 100% agreement. It was incredible. And that is this generosity in the listening. Look, assuming the other person knows what they're talking about, assuming they're good, searching for what it is they know that's valuable. So that's why increase the quality of listening is on the coffee cup. Then after that, it got a little bit more difficult, because then someone said, okay, we have a name, we have values. What else can we say? So we started down the next level on the principles. Now here we started to disagree with each other. Also, some people had to get airplanes and they went away, and we didn't get complete agreement. And we tried to continue by email. We got close. So there wasn't 100% agreement on the principles, although there was 100% agreement on the values. And so the principles are there's some that are maybe not quite so happy for me, but in general, they're good. Yeah, so that's the meeting at the time. So there's the years before, the 3 things that went before that everybody should know was the workshop on object-oriented design that we had in 94, 95, 98, and in 2001. The patterns communities that practiced dialoguing techniques, and then the lightweight methods. That's pretty obvious. So that's
okay.
Hopefully not too long. That's the first question, but that was a big question.
That's a great part of the story, because it was not only that famous meeting almost 20 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, something was being cooked all over the world. So it's been like 20 years since that meeting on Utah snowbird. What has changed since that? What do you see differently in the environment, in the way we face problems?
All right, so let me see. Let's start at the beginning. It's probably like 3 things I could think of. Well, the first is that at the time in the 90s, there were small projects. There were 6 people, 9 people, 15 people, not mission critical, not life critical kinds of systems. And after it became popular, then people said, this is great. I have a project, we're doing a nuclear reactor. We're doing a pacemaker for a heart. We're doing banking systems. We have 800 people in 3 countries. How do we do this, right? So the first shift was both in the number of people and in how critical the project was. So we had to do some adapting, and so you need more documentation, you need more testing, you need more rigor, if people are going to die. And it takes more work to coordinate 800 people than it does 15, right? So there's more structure needed once you get past about 20 people like that. So the first thing is now we're doing all remote development, multi-country, any number of people. So that's the first thing, is the size. We're doing arbitrarily difficult projects. The technology has changed, but not quite so much as it would affect the methodology. So that's the first thing when you say what's different.
Yeah.
The second thing is about 6 months after we wrote the manifesto, I was living close to another one of the authors, Jim Highsmith, and so we would visit at each other's house sometimes. And we looked at each other and we said, no, this is not special to software. This is pretty general. We could use this for any kind of project. And we said, yeah. So we actually started already in 2001, like 6 months after, trying to take this outside of software. And that proved very difficult. And even to this day, there are people who, Mike Beadle, Ron Jeffries, and a couple of others, they absolutely refused to take this out of software. They said, this is the manifesto for agile software development and not about other things. Okay, it's good for software, but the rest of us said, hey, these ideas really apply in any kind of business, any kind of work. And so the Scrum guys took it out, and they were using it in church projects. We use it in transformation projects. We use it in social projects. We use it in family projects. And as you know, and you'll get around to, we'll talk about it more, the heart of Agile in 2015, I decided, I was challenged to simplify everything, but come up with words that would fit absolutely no reference of software or product anywhere in the description, but everything the good things about Agile are contained. And we'll save that for a little bit later, but the second big change is using these ideas outside of software, outside of projects. Really, those basic concepts that were found in that meeting apply anywhere. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. The third thing is has to be mentioned, and that's this craziness over certifications and certificates. And so what I want to say about that's kind of interesting. It started because Ken Schwaber created not a certificate that you had attended a class in Scrum, which most certificates at the time were a certificate of completion, course completion. And he created a certified role name, a certified Scrum Master. And now you were it's like being a certified project manager. It's not that you had taken a class in project management, but you were a certified project manager, in this case, a certified Scrum Master. And the executives in the companies went crazy over this, and they wanted everybody to do this. And so once that certificate was in place, the way of doing certificates changed forever. And then everybody had to do a 2-day course, after which you were a certified job title name. And that's something that I'm still fighting with the heart of Agile. We're going away from that again. We think that certificates are okay, but you certify development in a skill. You don't certify a job title, especially not in 2 days. So the whole thing with the certificates getting out of control is the third thing that happened that's big. So those are the 3 things I would say that happened in the last 20 years.
Great. I agree. I agree with that certification point of view. I like to deep dive on the second item you ask, is agility outside of or beyond software development.
Yeah.
So in our context, in the bank, in the banking, in our organization, what does agility means for you? Not
We have some
only in
slides.
software development.
Yeah. Okay, we have some slides. Is this maybe a good time to pull up? Because I think I answer this in the slide, a couple of slides, and I'll go to the heart of agile also, so because I've referenced it. Good.
Okay.
So, and then the slides I think are in Spanish maybe, so that people can see them in Spanish. I will read them, right?
They are.
And because I learned my Spanish in Argentina, originally all of these verbs had an accent at the end, like the Argentinians do, is colaborar. In fact, I still cannot say colaborar. It sounds wrong to my ears. Entregar, reflexionar, mejorar con acento. It was for about a year till I learned enough to realize not all of Latin America uses the accent. It's only the Argentinians, so we had to take that out. Okay, can we have the next slide, please? So the definition, and this is the answer to your question. El próximo, por favor. Yes, thank you. And I just looked in the dictionary, and I wanted a completely general definition of agility that wasn't tied to anything about products. And I found the definition was just perfect in the dictionary. And we knew this. We knew what agility meant at the time that we wrote. So it's the ability to move and change directions quickly and with ease, in English, right? Habilidad para moverse y cambiar de dirección de forma rápida y con destreza. And you don't need anything else. You don't need anything else. This take away all of the manifesto stuff. All we want is this ability. Why do we want this ability? And the next slide, please, el próximo, por favor, will show that. And that's because the world has become what they call VUCA. VUCA is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So VUCA in, I guess, in Spanish, but VUCA in English. The point is that the world is changing so rapidly now that at no time can you predict what the world is going to be like in 6 months, especially with the pandemic, right? We saw that the world changed like this. Because the world is changing so rapidly, because the world is VUCA, everybody, every company, every department, every project, every initiative needs, can we go backward one slide, please? Can see if we can get the slide person master, thank you. Needs this ability to move and change direction quickly with ease. So that is what is agility these days in 2021 and why we need it. So when you say, we need agility everywhere, what is agility? Boom, that is it. The ability to move, change direction quickly and with ease. Why? Next slide, please. Go forward again. Because the world is VUCA.
What and why?
Yeah, I started with a, and so the next question I got to, if it's okay, do you want to interrupt with a question here, Carlos? You get to control a little bit the sequence of the questions.
No, not exactly. You can go on.
Okay, good.
Maybe regarding this Heart of Agile introduction, I just want to mention that a couple of years ago, you said that Agile has become over-decorated, and I think that was the genesis on, or how was Agile, Heart of Agile born. So why don't we tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, it was much simpler than all the other stories. In 2014, all of my lectures, I kept saying, this is too complicated. Let's just get back to the essence, the center, I was calling it in those days, yeah? Then I was in Australia, and a friend of mine, he was standing in the kitchen with me, and he said, I challenge you to get back out on stage, and you have to have a simplification. It has to have a logo or a picture. It has to have a name, and it has to have a certification process, right? Because of certificates. So that was my challenge. Literally, the next class I was teaching was Advanced Agile. So I really have a course which is called Advanced Agile, which is the same course like my basic, but we talk about everything differently. So, you know, like the exercises are the same, but we really dig into why and how and introspection and theory and all this stuff. But anyway, so I wrote these 4 words on the board. I just literally was on the whiteboard, and I said, well, I don't know. I guess collaborate. Gotta have collaborate. I guess deliver. You have to have feedback, so you have to have deliver. And then the third one is interesting because in my writing, I used to write reflective improvement. And in Scrum, they say inspect and adapt. And what I saw at that moment was that's 2 concepts, and people do badly with both. So I separated them. So reflect separately from adapt.
Improve.
So I got this cute little diamond, and I put a heart in the center. I don't know. But then I was searching for the word. What kind of a word do I want? What's the name? Is it the essence of agile, the root of agile? What? And I found this lovely Japanese symbol here, which I have tattooed there. I guess it's like this. And that means heart or essence. And I said, this is what I want. I want the essence, the simple essence of this thing. But I get to use the Japanese word kokoro, which has some other some other history and so on. And so it became the heart of agile, as opposed to the essence or something. And that's by good luck. I don't think I planned it at the beginning, but now you see, you know, like with the mug, we get this beautiful heart. You know, I can't figure out how to make this thing work with the camera, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So what I did then, I said, okay, but I'm old enough now. I don't want to come up with something new that's broken. How do I test this, right? This is part also of the heart of agile, is you have to test your ideas. And so I ran workshops everywhere I went. Someone said, hey, give us a guest lecture, an evening or a lunch. And I would ask people, just like I did back in 1991, what works on your projects? What makes your project work well? And then I put up 5 flip charts, and I had people just write all their notes down and put them on the 4 flip charts for the 4 words. And if they had any note that didn't belong for the 4 words, they put it on the 5th, because I wanted to capture anything that fell out, anything that I had missed. So the question, and it's a great question for you people in any of your internal workshops, list all of the things that make a project work well. That's it. If you ever were on a good project, what made it work well? And then you put those on. So we did that, and over the period of a year, I was able to, you know, pretty much test, debug, and I found that everything fits in these 4 words. You know, so then I said, okay, now it's safe, now I can go. Now this next slide is interesting. The slide did not come out quite right. What is it trying to say there? 1 second here. Let's just see if I can do something quickly.
Opens topics, abre temas. El corazón de la agilidad abre temas.
We skipped over una brújula, no un proceso. So we need to go back 2 slides.
One back.
2 back. ¿Cuál es el objetivo? Yeah, there we go. So now we get back to where we were here. So what am I trying to do? What I am trying to do is to get something so simple anybody can understand it. Because even Scrum, which is very simple, has become decorated, complicated. It has a lot of words. If you go outside of software, and some order, if you go to a lawyer's office, if you go to a village, if you go to a dance company, a theater company, they don't They don't want all these words. They don't have time for all of these funny words, backlogs and daily sprint. Yeah, they go like this. I wanted something super simple, anybody could use, no vocabulary, right? And would apply to any project, any initiative, anywhere. So I wanted something widely applicable, super simple, but still effective. So that's why I went down this path, and that's why we look at it. El próximo, por favor. And now there's this wonderful thing. My business partner is an Argentinian lady by the name of Soledad Pinter. Yeah, Sole. And she said, here's the problem we're wrestling with. Everybody sees words. We're so used to thinking of processes. Everybody says, is that a process? Am I supposed to do collaborate from 9 till 12 and then deliver from 12 till 3 and then reflect from 3 to 4 and improve from 4 to 5, right? People think, is that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday every week? Is that a process? Everybody wants to see a process. So we're trying to break the habit of a process. So Sola had this brilliant idea. She says, no, it's not a process, it's a compass. You don't go around north, east, south, west as a process with a compass. No, you say, I'm trying to go there. What direction is the next best direction for me to go in? And so you go for a while, and then after a while you stop and you say, my intention is to get there. What direction should I go in? So in this way, it's really nice because viewed as a compass, you say, where should we put our emphasis today or this week? Do we need to improve our collaboration? Do we need to improve our delivery? Should we stop and reflect? Or should we pay attention to the improvements that we're doing? And in this way, there's not, you choose every week, every group. So where do we need to get better? What does better mean, right? We want to deliver more effectively, something that people will like better and will use, any initiative of any kind, yeah? So you say, wow, we have these 4 things, choose one. So this is really brilliant. If we could see the next slide, please. Now, this is the one that we're, yeah. So the idea is that the having it as a compass, a brújula, means that we just have a topic of conversation, which is collaborate. Now you say, okay, let's have the topic, the conversation about collaboration. How do we improve collaboration? Well, you have to talk about culture. You have to talk about fear. You have to talk about trust. You have to talk about salaries. You have to talk about bonuses. You have to talk about the employee evaluation at the end of the year, right? These are not in processes. This is not in Scrum. This is not in SAFe. This is not anything. But if you want to improve collaboration, you have to discuss these topics. Inside of delivery, there's all of the lean, Kanban, internal workflow topics about making the inside of the organization more efficient. But you have to get feedback from the market. So the second one, the first one is internal flow. Second is feedback from the market, learning and learning and learning. And the third, of course, is finance, right? Incremental delivery, return on investment, all the financial topics that come. Inside of reflecting, we want people to look at data and also look at emotions. And then the big thing on the improvements is baby steps. It's just, we've been looking at psychology, we've been looking at improvements, and the theme is baby steps. Here's the thing there. You can see this is not a process, these are topics. If you say the heart of Agile is like a compass, it opens these doors for conversations. These are the conversations you have to have. Some are technical, some are social, right? Do we have any more? Let's see what's next on the slides, and then
Alistair, let me ask you something before we move on, or while we move on, because these 4 words that we are seeing, can we see them in the context of this cultural shift through agility? Are organizational capabilities, or how can we see them in that context?
Yeah, really great question.
But we can
because
we can have the presentation, the slides. No, keep the slides so we can discuss
yeah, that's
around
perfect.
these
That's,
four
because that
words.
that's the Spanish of what's on my coffee mug, right? So now everybody can read, right? Aumenta la calidad de la escucha.
I need the second one.
Sí.
I have the first.
Yeah. Sole and I can arrange for you to get a coffee mug
Okay.
in English or in Spanish. We should put it online, and so you can order lots of them. That would be fun.
Great.
But yeah, so this is really interesting because your question is right there in the brújula in the previous slide was culture of collaboration. Now, remember at the Agile meeting, I said it was the best collaboration I ever saw. Nobody was in charge. There, like Bob Martin called the meeting. He could have said, "This is my meeting. I want to do this," right? He didn't. He said, "Guys, I have an idea that we could work together and find something in common, and that would be nice, and I would like to write a manifesto." And then he sat down, right? So he never like, "I'm the big guy," right? Nobody did that. Now, okay, so you want to increase collaboration, you have to talk about culture. Now we get to a little delicate part, Carlos, because I'm talking to people in Latin America. And every country, so you guys know, I know that every country in Latin America has a different culture, right? And you say, right, now, which cultures in Latin America are going to find it easiest to do the agile thing? This is a terrible question, but I'm going to put my life at stake, and I'm going to answer the question for you, right? So I'm in trouble now, but that's okay. I like it. So for me, I would say Uruguay and Costa Rica come out the easiest. Why? Because they have the least social stratification. I teach in Uruguay a class. Within minutes, everybody is sitting on the floor with the mate, right? Now, if we want to get collaboration, everybody sitting on the floor with mate is just the best way of collaborating, right? It's so easy, right? So even more than Argentina, when I taught in Uruguay, I really saw this very, very socially even way of being. Like in Scandinavia, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, they have very, very socially equal, right? The new programmer at Spotify can talk to the president of Spotify and say, "I don't like what you did. This is okay in Scandinavia." But you can't do this in all of Latin America. So I went to Chile. Yeah, and Chile is like France. France is very hierarchical. Chile is very hierarchical, right? There's a military style. You don't just like get the whole, like everybody and sit on the floor with mate and have an asado and right, make up stuff. There's hierarchy. Mexico is quite hierarchical, right? Colombia, I don't know so much. I haven't worked there, right? So when we talk about becoming agile, becoming more effective, not more agile, but just more effective, we're working with initiatives that are all about ideas, moving ideas between minds. And hierarchy, fear, criticism slows the movement of ideas between minds. So if you have a hierarchical culture, the bosses have to work harder so everybody knows they're listening. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that the bosses have to show that they're listening, right? So it's not impossible, but culturally there's a topic to discuss. Yeah. So when we talk about Latin America and agile, we're in the collaborate part of the compass, and the topic is culture, listening, hierarchy, fear, criticism, right? Yeah, that's
I
one.
get it.
Just, I'm showing you how we use the heart of Agile, the opening that it made to get into a very serious, very difficult conversation, but so important that we have to have the conversation. So that was a brilliant question. Thank you for that. I love investigating.
Thank you for that. So I think that I'm understanding that not only every country has its own cultural identity. I would say that each company has its
Oh
own
yeah, very much so. And
conversations, mindsets. So it depends on the context. So we have to read the context so to react appropriately. What do you think?
yeah, and there again, we go, bigger companies, older companies tend to be hierarchical. So they have more difficulty in opening the communication channels. Can this person from this department talk freely with this department? Microphone going? Thank you. So can people in different departments talk to each other, or do they get in trouble, right? If they get in trouble, then they won't talk, or they'll go around the chain of command and they'll talk. That's pretty common in government, organizations, and in big companies. Typically in small companies, in startups, it's easier. It's easier to talk to people. So yeah, company by company. What else?
According to your knowledge and experience, a couple of tips so we can like takeaways for all our
Yeah.
participants
So
about this topic.
here's something that we learned. Sole and I teach this course. We have a 1.5 day cut down version that works over Zoom. You know, we used to do a 2-day course, but we have a cut down version we call the Essentials. And as we teach this, we've learned something super interesting that all of your people can apply. Like everybody on this video can apply immediately. And it's so good. This is now the first thing that we teach. And it's so simple, I can just tell it to you right now. Ask yourself any property that you would like, right? Because we just got done saying, name all the things that were present on a good project that you would like to see again. Take any one of them. So I would like to see that property here. I would like to do that. Now ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, how present is that property now? Let's say cross-departmental collaboration. That's a difficult one, right? But that's a good one.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, and you might say, it's terrible. It's 3. Okay? But the important thing is 3 is not nothing. 3 is actually something. There's something. So you do 2 things. You find examples of any cross-departmental collaboration, and you try to repeat that. Right? But the big deal is you don't try to go from 3 to 6. You try to go from 3 to 3.5. Baby steps, baby steps.
Baby steps.
And so we don't say, I go to Chile and they go, hey, we're suffering. We can't do Agile, too hierarchical, la, 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 right? And I go, okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, how is it? Oh, it's terrible. It's a 3. Okay. But this is Chile, you're in a big company. You're not going to get 8 or 9, but make it 3.5. If you make it 3.5, it's a little bit better. And you get people used to making small steps on anything. They can improve the delivery a little bit. They can improve the collaboration a little bit, right? They can improve all 4 of these things a little bit. They can improve the trust a little bit, right? They can improve the workflow a little bit. And we want to get people just used to, a little bit is okay. You don't have to change the whole company. Just a little bit and a little bit and a little bit always. Yeah. So that's how to get started in any context, in any circumstances. The other thing that they said in Chile was, hey, there are just not a lot of Agile people. How are we going to change the whole country? And I said, you are not going to change the whole country. Don't try to change the whole country. But what you can do is connect with other people who are like you, and then you can have a conversation partner, you can form a community, you can exchange ideas, you can give yourself some moral support, and so on. You know, so for example, we have Heart of Agile communities in every country, in Argentina, in Chile, Costa Rica, Panama, Mexico now, Peru. And they all work together beautifully. So if anybody wants to join, they say, hey, where's the Heart of Agile community? And then they go and then they join a community and they feel good and get some energy from that. So those are the two things for getting started.
Okay. What I'm hearing is like focused baby steps, not any baby steps.
Correct.
From 3 to 3.5, in that focus, I'm going to do baby steps. And then share with other people.
And every team can pick a different topic. One team can choose delivery, one team can choose fear, one team can choose, I don't know, anything like that.
Yeah, including the board, including the executives, not only the development teams.
Yeah.
Every team in the organization can ask those questions and say, maybe we're not collaborating enough. How can we collaborate a little bit more? What is the next baby step we need to do?
I have, and I know I'm hoping some of the listeners have questions, but I have one tiny story that fits right here.
Go ahead.
I was in Greece talking with Vodafone, and I had the CEO of Vodafone Greece, and the CIO, CTO, so direct reports, all of these people, and the first thing I bring up with executives are their bonuses, because in many companies, the bonuses are conflicting. One guy gets a bonus on sales, but the other one gets a bonus on quality. And these two people fight. They can't collaborate really. So you have to fix the bonus structure at the top first. So I bring this up with them, really nice people. But the CEO said the most beautiful thing. He goes, we are already evaluated on how we work together as a team, so that's not a problem. He said, but I can see that as we break this down into the organization, that the rewards get separated and they generate separation and not collaboration. He said, I'm going to see if we can change those bonus structures and reward structures to increase collaboration across the organization. Right?
Yeah.
So this is a big change, but it's a small change. I mean, it's not like enormous, change everything. It's just a little change, maybe from 4 to 4.5. Right? But he understood that he had to find a way to increase collaboration.
Okay.
So let's see what else you guys have for questions. We have about 10 minutes
Let's
left.
see what question do we have from our participants. So thanks, Alistair, for all this. See, yeah.
One thing. I need to teach people how to pronounce my name, because it's not Cockburn, it's Cockburn, and nobody would know that if I didn't say so. So it's
Cockburn.
The CK is not pronounced. It's a Scottish name. It's from Scotland.
Cockburn.
And we have a clan, a whole Scottish clan, and the clan is called Cockburn. So the name is Cockburn, even though it looks like Cockburn.
Okay.
So
a couple of years ago, I learned to pronounce your first name. No? Alistair.
It's very good to know that now. So thank you very much, Mr. Alistair Cockburn. Is that right?
Yeah,
Cockburn.
Perfect.
Great. Ok, thank you very much. Y muchas gracias, Carlos, por acompañarnos en este bloque. Vamos a ir a las preguntas. Tenemos preguntas para ustedes. We will have some questions for you. So please, vamos a la primera pregunta. ¿Sí? La primera pregunta dice así. I think this one is for you, Alistair. When you started with this idea and put it on paper, did you ever imagine that it would have such an impact and that you would become part of the history of project management? How do you feel about it? What do you think the next step will be? Agile with all, agility for all. Oof.
It's AAI. That's artificial
okay.
intelligence. So it has to be called
AI.
AI.
Fine.
AI.
Oh,
I didn't know
good.
that.
Let's see. So, yeah. No, I want to try. There are like 3 questions in there, and I want to pick them all up kind of quickly. It's really good questions. So, there were 17 kind of famous people in the room. So we kind of knew that we could have an impact. We could have an effect, right? If we all started writing about this at the same time.
Horrible, la odio.
Yeah. So that much we knew, but the level that it is now is crazy. You know, when the first time it was in a contract with General Electric Healthcare and 24 hospitals was already in 2003. It was in the development contract that it had to be agile, and we just went, wow, you know. And the way it is now, it's beyond our biggest dreams. There's no question about that. Could I just see those questions again? That you've got the screen on me, and I want to read that question again because I want to pull out the 3 questions.
¿Podemos ir con las preguntas de nuevo, por favor? Ahí está. Ahí vamos con ellas, ¿eh? En un segundito. Just 1 minute, please.
Yeah, because there were like 3 good questions in there. I want to pick them up.
Yes,
so,
many questions in one. More difficult.
Okay, let me get them. Did we knew we would have an effect?
Here we go again.
Sí, lo veo. Está bien.
Great.
Yeah, we knew we would have an effect, but not at the level like we have right now. Now, the how do you feel about it is interesting because most people think that we should be unhappy that the certification process, the misuse of this word agile should bother us. And it bothers me a little bit, but not too much, because it's normal that anybody with power or who seeks power or seeks advancement will corrupt any idea in order to advance their power. Yeah. So if they're not doing that, then you're being ignored. If you have an effect on the world, people will misuse your ideas. I take this as a normal part of life. The fact that people are saying they're agile when they're not it means we're successful, is what it means, right? So it's good and bad, but I say that's human nature. I can't fight that. It means we're being successful. You have to live with it. And then those of us who started it, we keep fighting to put it back in the same place, right? With that, I'm going to show you one more thing on this coffee mug here. Let's see if we can how good we can get. The 3 words. Can you do something with the camera? The 3 words right in the center. I'll hold this very still. We added 3 more words for our communities, and it's dialogue, openness, and humanity. Diálogo, apertura, y humanidad. And we did this because we want to put some ethical, moral guidelines for ourselves as we continue, right? Just to reduce the amount of misuse that we get out of the heart of Agile. So that's the second question. The third question has to do with artificial intelligence. People who are very cynical say that project managers can be replaced by artificial intelligence. But when I talk to good project managers, what the good project managers do is they work with the fear, the trust of the group. And they listen very well, and they use empathy, and they connect to the team so the team now can talk well. That's not something for AI. That's something for really a human with good ears, big ears, and a big heart. Make the best project managers. So that's the question about AI. So I got the 3 questions. That was a tricky one. They got 3 questions.
Great.
Thank you very much. I think we have another question for you. Let's see now. Yes, one more. What do you recommend for companies that are in the process of changing their organizational culture? What do you recommend for them?
Yeah, that's really, really a big question. So I'll pick out one tiny little thing. I think that I'm going to talk about the annual evaluation, employee evaluation, and anything in this way, that people can focus on 2 things and no more than 2 things. So if you're going to be evaluated at the end of the year, for an employee, let's just say we hire an employee to be good at something. So at the end of the year, I want to ask two questions. Did they do the thing that we hired them for? But the second question is, how good was the collaboration? Is the company a better place than it was before they came, in the sense of exchanging ideas? So these two. Now, if we take organizational culture, and I was talking with a company recently that does organizational transformation. That's their main line business. And they were saying that their consultants were too focused on numerics, like, you know, the number of stories that are done and certain KPIs, and very numerical approach. And they had left out all the human feeling. And so I said, well, you need your coaches to have two measures they check at the end of every week. One is whatever your top, you know, KPI, OKR thing is. But the second is, has the quality of collaboration improved in the last week? What's the mood? Has the mood improved? So I would say now to that question, the thing that I would say, people can very easily get into organization transformation, cultural transformation, and get very focused on numbers, OKRs, KPIs, whatever they choose for letters. And what's important to add at the level of number two, not number three, not number 5, 7, number 2 is the collaboration getting better? Is the mood? How is the empathy? How is the exchange of information doing? That's what we want to improve. Yeah. So I would put that as, that must be number 2 in the evaluation. You could put it number 1, but I'm okay with it being number 2.
Thank you very much. So let's see if we have some more questions for you. Vamos a ver si tenemos alguna otra pregunta para ustedes. Tenemos una más. Vamos a ver. Una última. I think is the last one. One of the best practices that I learned before in project environments is the details are very important because decreasing the risk of ambiguity, but in the key things of agility. The documentation about user request is minimum. How do you that risk? And what do you decrease that risk in agility model?
Okay.
Let's see that.
Yeah. No, I got it. So there's one thing is a evolution of agility that is the opposite of what we asked for at the time of the manifesto. At the time of the writing of the manifesto, just dealing with software for a minute, we said you want the programmer talking to the user. Now, if the programmer is talking with the user, you don't have to worry about the documentation about what the user wants because the user is talking to the programmer every week, 2 times a week, 3 times a week, 1 time a week. It's not a problem. The reason we have a problem is because companies are separating the programmers from the users, and now the user can't say what they want anymore and the programmer can't hear it. So the reason that question exists as a question is because we're not doing what we asked for at the beginning. Given that that's the case, so the first is let the programmers talk to the users, let the users talk to the programmers, and right. If they are separated, then video is your friend. So you video the users saying what they want and you show the video to the programmers. And this now lets the users express what they want with their full body, saying, hey, when I click here, this doesn't work. What I really want is, my job is like this. I need this to make it better. So you can use, these days, it's very easy to use video for documentation. And you can use video clips in both ways to show demos of the software to the users and get the users' views coming back, right? If you have them separated, but of course the best is to put them back together. Okay, that's a pretty short answer for a question there. So I'm looking at the time. We probably don't have time for any more.